Okay, so this is the basic setup. The setup is pretty long, so you have to be careful how you use the table. Generally speaking, you want one end of the optics bench as close to that end of the table as you can get without actually hanging over the edge. Hanging over the edge a little bit isn't going to hurt. But we need this as far that way so that we can do some specialized setup over here. But let's look at what we got to do on that end first, because that's a simpler end. This is the slider for the optics bench. We want to put this on the other side here. And there's a screw on the back side here that will lock it into place. Next thing to do is to make sure that the optics bench is level. So that's where the level comes in handy. Put this on top here. And if you look at the bubble should be exactly between the two black lines. If you need to, if it's not between the two black lines, the bubble floats towards the side that is slightly higher. So right now the bubble is slightly to the right, so that means that I need to either lower the right side or raise the left side. And the way to do that is with a pair of screws that are on the back side of each of the feet of the optics bench. You can only do a little bit of adjustment there, but it's usually going to be enough to go from however level your table is, which is going to be within a couple degrees of level, and the actual true level that is perpendicular to the force of gravity. So let me do some quick adjustments on that. If you have to do some more drastic adjustments, putting some pieces of paper underneath one side is another way to raise up one side of the optics bench. Let me just do some quick adjustments here. A little bit more down on this side. I'm going to need some paper here. This is a little bit more out of level than I thought. Okay, so it's about maybe 15 sheets of paper or so. Alright, so that's about as level as this optics rail is going to get. Now we need to start building the rest of the setup. The next image will be a picture of the bubble up in the middle so that you know exactly what to look for. Okay, so for those of you who are new to using levels, you'll notice first of all that there's a bubble in the middle of this green fluid, and then there's these two circles right here and here. The first thing to do is to get your head in the right place. So, and I don't mean that figuratively, I mean it literally. So you want it right there so that the two circles look like they're straight lines. That guarantees that you're looking at it dead on. Okay, and then you want to adjust the height of the feet in order to get that bubble right in the middle. And that's about as level as you're going to get. You see that bubble's about 1 millimeter or 2 from each side. Now it started out, let me take the papers out, it started out looking like that. And see how the bubble is much more towards the right side. Let's get your head in the right place. There we go. It's It's much more towards the right side than it is towards the left side. So that means we need to raise up the left side of the optics bench. And that's relatively easy to do. Put all those papers back in. Paper's nice because it's nice and thin. You can remove one piece of paper at a time. And there you go. It's about as perfectly level as you need to get for this lab. Okay, so now, like I said, we got to deal with the complicated end. First thing to take a look at is the test tube clamp. Now, you want a test tube clamp that can rotate around this axis. Okay, it's going to be locked into the lab stand like so through this screw, but you want it to be able to change its angle, change the angle of the claw-shaped part as we move the test tube clamp up and down. It'll be one less thing for you to adjust. Now, this means that you have to be careful in selecting your test tube clamp. For example, this test tube clamp, while it might have seen some better days, it's been through a couple Bunsen burners and things like that, but in spite of looking a little ugly, this one can rotate. Not all the test tube clamps can, so when you are digging through the bin of test tube clamps, make sure you get one that can sort of rotate around the wrist. Okay. Next part is to make sure that this is properly positioned. You want the base and the test tube clamp in opposite directions. So, like this. Base this way, test tube clamp that way. Next thing, grab your piece of Schedule 200 PVC and one rubber band. Put the rubber band around the side that does not have the hole. Loop this around here. Might have to move it back a little bit in order to get a good strong fit. And then slide your test tube clamp onto the pipe. Make sure that the test tube clamp is closer to the optics bench than it is to the hole. In fact, you will want a few inches of space here. Now, this is far too steep of a slope for what we want today. Let's just move this down a little bit. And as you move this down, you got to move the rubber band back. And let's move the whole pipe back a little bit, actually. Okay. So that's setting up the pipe. Now, the reason for this hole in the pipe is because we're going to use the photo gate. We're going to shoot the photo gate's beam through this little hole in the pipe. That's going to be a little tricky to do, but once you get it set up, it shouldn't be a big deal. Alright, let's go grab the photo gate. Alright, so we got our photo gate over here. Now, really, the two heads on most of them do exactly the same thing. However, on a few of my photo gates, they are not as adjustable as this one here. It's just two little clips that stick onto the post. But that's only on the timer side. All of my accessory heads have the nice, flexible, and highly adjustable head on this side. So you want to have the accessory head on this side, and then the photo gate timer way down there on the other side. Now remember, the infrared beam on the photo gate goes from the LED side to the sensor side. And so what you need is for the LED and the sensor to be on opposite ends of this hole. In other words, you need the sensor to be able to see the LED through the hole, even though you can't see the infrared LED, or at least you can't see the infrared light from the LED. You can see the LED itself. That's no big deal. And normally they start out this way. By tilting this a little bit to the side, we can do several operations on top of the pipe that we need to do. So you want to tilt this thing askew a little bit. And the way you do that is you loosen up this screw on the back, adjust it to whatever angle you want, and then tighten up the screw. Alright, now it helps that there's this little red LED on top of the photo gate. When the photo gate is plugged in and ready to go, whenever the beam is interrupted, the LED lights up. It might be kind of hard to see. These are not exactly the most modern LEDs, but this little LED here will light up when the beam is interrupted. So that means that we want, when we have this all set up and ready to go, before we release the ball, we need to make sure that this LED is off. That means the beam is not being interrupted, which means that when the ball passes through the beam, it will be interrupted. Okay, so if the pipe is interrupting the beam, the light will be on, but if you rotate things so that the beam passes straight through that half-inch hole that we've drilled in this pipe, then the LED will be off. So basically you want this so that the beam goes through the half-inch hole and the LED, and you can confirm that the beam is going through it by having the LED off. Now, a couple other things. I mentioned there's a little pinhole which is perpendicular to that half-inch hole in the pipe. Let me grab the camera and give you a slightly different perspective because it's probably not too informative from where you're seeing. Okay, so what we've got here is, as you can see, there's the hole in the pipe, and the photo gate is basically straddling that hole. And when the beam is interrupted, the LED lights up. When it's not interrupted, the LED is off. Okay, now I'm going to turn this off so that I can refocus the lens. Give me a moment. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, like I said, we get to, there's the pinhole right there, and we got to put the pin through that. There's a pinhole on the opposite side, and it looks like I got to tilt this thing a little bit more. If you make any adjustments, make sure the LED head doesn't light up. Okay, so there we go, pinhole. And then on the other side of the pipe, there's an opposite side of that pinhole. I just got to find it. Helps if you look down the barrel of the pipe. And there it is. There we go. So, pin is all the way through. Okay, now we got to take the ball, just drop that in there, and the pin stops it from rolling any further. Now, you'll notice that we just had a problem, and that is that the LED lit up, which means that things got knocked out of alignment a little bit. There we go. One second, let me adjust the rubber band down here. Go. That'll hold it more or less in place. Also helps to tighten up the clamp here. Alright, now before we take any measurements, we need to check a couple things. Actually, the first thing we need to do is we need to set up this on the other side. You want this as far away as the cable will allow you to stretch. Okay, so you want the photo gate timer way down here, and you'll notice that the photo gate timer is currently running. You can just press the white stop button right here. I'm going to reset it to clear the numbers. Alright, now when the ball rolls down here, okay, you want it to interrupt the photo gate beam at this end as well. So we'll be timing the time it takes to go from that photo gate head down the pipe across the level rail to this photo gate head. And that means that my photo gate head is way too high right now. Okay, so again, just adjust this screw, bring it down so that it's just about level. And you can test it by taking the ball, rolling it through the photo gate, and making sure that the LED flashes as the ball passes through. Okay, that means that the ball interrupted the beam, triggered the photo gate timer. Alright, don't forget, stop it and reset it whenever you trigger it.